Ladies and gentlemen, dear shareholders, good afternoon. On behalf of the group and all of our workforce, I'd like to welcome you to the Danone AGM, and I declare the assembly open. As chair of the Board of Directors, I will chair. I have Antoine Saint-Affrique here with me, the Director General on my right, and then a bit further on Jürgen Esser, the Deputy Director General and Financial Director, and on my left, Laurent Sacchi, Secretary General and Secretary of the Board. If you will, we will now form the Bureau, the officers of the Assembly, and I call up to act as tellers the two shareholders who are taking part in this Assembly and have the largest number of votes and who have accepted this: Ibrahim So, who represents Amundi, and Anne-Laure Markinovich, who represents FCPE Danone, which is the salaried shareholder fund of the company. I would like to thank them very warmly for having agreed to do this, and I suggest that we designate Laurent Sacchi, Secretary of the Board, as Secretary of this Assembly. I would like to welcome the members of the board who are present at this meeting, and also the corporate auditors who are here in the room with us and who in the course of the meeting will be telling us about their findings regarding the accounts and the information regarding sustainability measures. I will now show you on the screen the outline of the meeting. Laurent Sacchi will remind you of the legal formalities that have been carried out prior to the Assembly and also the agenda. I will present the work done by the board in 2025. Pascal Lamy, who's President of the Mission Committee, will present his report, and this will be followed by presentations from Antoine de Saint-Affrique and Nathalie Alquier, who's Vice Chair in charge of Sustainable Development, and then we will have financials from Jürgen Esser. And then we will give the floor to our auditors so that they can inform you of their findings. And finally, you will have the floor. We will have a question and answer session before we vote the resolutions. And we are planning to close the meeting at around 5 p.m. Thank you very much for your attention, and I give the floor now to Laurent Sacchi. Thank you very much indeed, Sheila. We will now move on to the rather more legal or administrative part of this introduction. I think you're familiar with how these meetings are conducted. I recognize many familiar faces in the room. Let me remind you that the Assembly was convened by invitation and that we have fulfilled all of the prior formalities required by law. Legal documents have been made available. They are in this green file in keeping with the legal and regulatory provisions, and they have been communicated or made available to the shareholders and the Economic and Social Committee of the company once the invitation was set out. Once again this year, any shareholder, whether they be a registered shareholder or the bearer, is able to vote online via internet using the vote access platform, provided their bank is a member of that platform, and most financial institutions are in France. It's a secure site that was opened on the 1st of April this year, and in keeping with regulation, it was closed at 3 p.m., 1500 hours. I'll now read out the agenda. This meeting is gathered and will be required to vote on 17 ordinary and extraordinary resolutions. First of all, we have for the ordinary general meeting approval of the company accounts for the financial year ending 31st December 2025. Resolution 2 is approval of the consolidated financial statements for the financial year ending 31st of December 2025. 3. Allocation of profit for the financial year ending 31st December 2025 and setting the dividend at 2.25 euros per share. Then we have the renewal of 3 terms. Renewal of Gilles Schnepp's term of office as Director pursuant to Article 15 to Paragraph 2 of the Articles of Association. Then renewal of Valérie Chapoulot-Floquet's term of office as Director. 6. Renewal of Sanjeev Mehta's term of office as Director. 7th, approval of information relating to the remuneration of corporate officers. 8, approval of the components of the remuneration paid during or awarded in respect of financial year ended 31st December 2025 to Antoine de Saint-Affrique, our Chief Executive Officer. Then we have approval of the components of the remuneration paid during or awarded in respect to the financial year ending 31st December 2025 to Gilles Schnepp, Chairman of the Board of Directors. 10, approval of the remuneration policy for Executive Directors for the financial year 2026. 11, approval of the remuneration policy for the Chairman of the Board of Directors for the 2026 financial year. 12, approval of the remuneration policy for Directors for the financial year 2026. 13, this relates to the authorization to be granted to the Board of Directors to purchase, hold, or transfer shares in the company. The 14th resolution is ratification of the transfer of the registered office. You may or may not know this. It has moved from Boulevard Haussmann to Rue Lafayette, a few hundred yards away. Then we have the extraordinary general meeting. The agenda for resolutions is 15, delegation of authority to the Board of Directors to issue ordinary shares and securities reserved for employees participating in a company savings plan and or to carry out reserved share placement without shareholders' preemptive subscription rights. 16, delegation of authority to the Board of Directors to issue ordinary shares and securities giving access to the share capital with the removal of preemptive subscription rights reserved for categories of beneficiaries comprising employees working within foreign companies of the Danone Group or in situations of international mobility as part of employee share ownership schemes. And finally, the customary final resolution falling within the remit of the ordinary general meeting, number 17, powers of attorney for formalities. We have now the figures, and I would like to inform you that according to the attendance sheet that has just been communicated to me, the present and represented shareholders, or those who have voted by correspondence or internet, have together 466,595,444 shares out of the 640,172,962 shares with voting rights. That, if you work it out, and I hope the percentage is right, 72.89% of the shares. This is much more than the 25%, which is the quorum required for the general meeting, and I think we've beaten last year's record. Votes by correspondence represent 476,614,560 voting rights. That's the vast majority. The powers of attorney for the chair represent 5,489,036 voting rights. Of the 640,172,962 shares with voting rights, 39,863,790 fair shares have a double voting right. I would also like, therefore, to point out that the conditions required for this general meeting to meet appropriately as an ordinary and extraordinary general meeting, so we are able to meet, and in keeping with the recommendations of the Financial Market Authority, as of the 22nd of April, 6 p.m., 1800 hours, we have added 6 voting instructions that represent 448 shares and 879 voting rights. They were rejected in keeping with the applicable regulatory provisions because the voting instruction was invalid. So these instructions have not been included in the calculation of the quorum that I have just communicated to you. And finally, we have 4 reminders. We will close the registration of the attendance sheet at a quarter of an hour's time. So if people arrive Beyond that time, they will not be able to take part in voting the resolutions. If you wish to ask questions in writing, please use the sheets that have been made available to you for that purpose, and please hand them as soon as possible to the welcoming staff so that we can answer your questions during the question and answer session. I would also like to remind you that the general meeting is being filmed. It's broadcast live on our internet site, www.danone.com, and it will remain available there on our internet site for a number of months after this meeting. And finally, when handing out the electronic voting devices, you were asked to fill out a form to be invited to the next general meeting by electronic means. So this is something that, in keeping with changing in communication generally, and there was a decree of the 13th of February 2026, which means that if you filled out that form, you will receive all of the documentation in digital form on your email address. So we would encourage you to fill out the form and to give it to our welcoming staff. Thank you for your attention, and I hand back to our Dear shareholders, 2025 has illustrated once again that the Danone model is the right one. It's a twin model based on economic growth and the social measures. It dates back to 1972, but it's as topical today as it was then. The words used today are different. We talk about financial and non-financial performance, but what really counts is that these notions remain valid today. They are intertwined engines of growth for a company like Danone. For our 90,000 workforce and for your board, it's a source of great pride to be able year after year to help write a new chapter, a major chapter of an adventure that began more than 50 years ago now. Regarding financial performance in 2025, Jürgen Esser, our Deputy Director General, will present this in some detail, but it is really sound performance, particularly given that the broader context is fraught and uncertain. Our growth is robust and healthy because it's based on value and volume, not just on price, and our profitability is continuing its path of gradual improvement year on year, and we are paving the way for the future with targeted investments. Now, does this mean that we are completely satisfied with all of our achievements in all of the countries, in all of the categories, and with all of our brands? Of course not. But your management, top management under Antoine de Saint-Affrique, who is certainly not someone who gives in to complacency, are focusing their energy on measures that will help make the group stronger still. And this is the case for our business in America, which has been thoroughly reorganized so that we can make sure that this key zone for the group can be brought back onto a sustainable growth path. This is a continuous improvement of our financial performance that we've seen over the last 3 years, and this has strengthened our balance sheet. As a result, we are able now to reactivate our acquisitions policy. A number of transactions have been reviewed and approved by your board, and they all make sense. The sense is that these transactions will implement the ambitions that were presented by the Director General at the last Investor Day meeting. And at the heart of our mission to increase health through food, we find science and innovation. And Antoine de Saint-Affrique will tell you more in a moment. Regarding the non-financial performance, the 2025 financial year is a source of great satisfaction. There are 4 major achievements that I'd like to highlight here. First of all, we have met nearly all of our 25 objectives as defined in the Danone Impact Journey roadmap, and also our objectives as a mission driven company, and this is really very rewarding. And indeed, Pascal Lamy, who is the president of the Mission Committee, will be giving you further information about this. I'd like to thank him very much for his commitment. Another source of satisfaction is that after tireless work over the last 10 years, we have achieved at global level the B Corp certification. Danone is the largest company globally to have this recognition. Also, we have a AAA score from CDP. This is a particularly demanding body, and you can see this when I tell you that only a score of companies worldwide have been given that AAA ranking, whereas CDP has evaluated 20,000 companies. And finally, and certainly very significant, Danone ranks first in the ATNI ranking out of 30 companies in our line of business that were assessed by ATNI. And this is a reward. It's a recognition that we have done well to make our products more healthy but also tasty.
And of course, Danone doesn't plan to stop there. The governance of the group during the course of 2025, the full governance worked on drawing up the next non-financial roadmap that will take us through to 2030. Management, CSR committee, the board and the mission committee, each in their role contributed to defining ambitious and impactful goals for 2030. This will all be set out to you during the course of this afternoon, notably by Catherine, at a time where some are questioning a possible shift in CSR policies, also known as the backlash. Danone intends to continue its original approach, not because it is in line with way more fashion, but because it's at the heart of its corporate project. And lastly, if this is more a matter for 2026 and 2025, I'd like to refer to the infant milk crisis, as it's known, affected our industry earlier this year. Antoine de Saint-Affrique will return to that in detail. But let me say here that your board was particularly attentive and vigilant by convening a meeting on several occasions to track the development of a particularly sensitive situation regarding infant health. Turning now to the portion of the meeting relating to group governance as well as the remuneration of the Chief Executive Officer in respect of governance is a point that I view as very positive. It's perfectly stable because the board remains with its 11 members if, of course, that is, you vote on the resolution to renew the term set out by the Secretary a moment ago. The characteristics of the board remain unchanged, a closely knit team, an exceptional concentration of sector skills, a remarkable independence ratio, a feminization ratio in accordance with legislation, a very large contribution of international profiles, bringing their insights of markets across continents. The board was once again very much engaged during the course of this year, both in the board itself as well as its three committees. As you can read on the screen, member engagement was once again outstanding this year if we refer to the participation rate. Now, the stability that I referred to a moment ago in respect of governance also reflected in the remuneration structure of the CEO. The three pillars, fixed, annual variable and long-term variable, remain unchanged, have remained unchanged since 2021. You can see on screen the detailed figures for 2025 in respect of 2025, and on this visual chart the same degree of detail for 2026. Now, this year, what is put to your vote, the only changes concern the components of the variable part in respect of annual remuneration, with a criterion pertaining to regenerative agriculture, replacing the B Corp certification criteria, and the Fair Wage Network. We're almost at 100% on that, as well as greenhouse gas emissions, because in fact it's always included in the long-term variable remuneration. We wanted to avoid duplication in terms of variable long-term remuneration. A criteria linked to the Dan Life program will be introduced, replacing the criteria concerning the consumption cycle in production facilities, so that each can have a criteria for the Danone impact journey. Dan Life, Karine will speak to that in a moment, that embodies the sustainable commitment of Danone to support each of our employees at every stage in their career, so as to grow their potential and to nurture collective performance. That's what I wish to say in opening this AGM, and I don't want to leave the lectern by expressing on behalf of the board my sincere thanks to the 80,000 Danonans without whom all this would not have been achievable. Still, on behalf of the board, I'd like to congratulate the management team led by its CEO, Antoine de Saint-Affrique, for 5 years now, that has genuinely transformed this fine company, recognized today for what has been undertaken and achieved over the period. Lastly, I'd like to thank the board members in particular, those because our three committees are chaired by women, those who lead them, as well as our lead board member of the mission committee and his chair, because this year saw both the assessment of achievements of our first roadmap that ended in 2025 and the preparation of the second that required particular commitment. I will now hand over to the chair of the mission committee, Pascal Lamy, who will read through his report, the work of the mission committee.
On a perdu Pascal Lamy.
We have Pascal Lamy. I was looking. Oh, I didn't see. I didn't see that you're so discreet. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. And just to recall the committee that I have the honour of chairing must, under French legislation, report to you on the way in which Danone is implementing the non-financial performance obligations that it has underwritten as a mission company, and to do that we're assisted by an independent external auditor. You will have found in the written documents made available to you the detail of the assessments and observations of the mission committee that I shall now briefly summarize. Just to say, first of all, that FY25 ends a first cycle of the 5-year pathway with its annual objectives, and it's followed by another cycle of the same duration that has just begun in 2026. As in previous years, we note with satisfaction that the targets agreed by Danone after consultation with our committee were either reached or exceeded, with one specificity that concerns the percentage of plastic pots designed to be recyclable where there are formal collection systems, and that rate will only reach 100% in 2026. Indeed, has developed with its partners innovative solution in this field of recycling of plastic pots, and these solutions are lagging behind owing to circumstances external to Danone's responsibilities, which led the auditor to conclude in his report that Danone indeed complied with each of its social environmental objectives as a purpose-driven or mission company. Results obtained this year concern not just the major categories set by the company: health, environment, social, but as Gilles Schnepp just recalled, a B Corp certification, which was part of the engagement and was obtained this year as planned. We also approved, after discussion, the pathway for the next 5 years by ensuring that the new objectives maintain the previous level of ambition, even if, of course, they had to be adjusted to the changes in the Danone portfolio products, regulations, or the comparative benchmarks that we use. To be as complete as possible, I would add, as Gilles Schnepp just said, even if these points pertain to 2026, the committee was informed by Danone of developments concerning the recall of infant formula that occurred during the course of the year. Now, two comments in conclusion. Firstly, I'd like to thank my colleagues for their commitment, our contacts at Danone as well, the auditors, for their extensive availability, but also to mourn the passing of one of the members of the mission committee, David Nabarro, whose expertise and rigor contributed a great deal to the work of our committee, in particular of maternal breastfeeding. Lastly, in order to underscore here again, by no means happenstance here, as Gilles Schnepp, the steadfast approach by Danone's management to highlight the convergence of its strategy with its mission company commitments. In other words, this convergence between financial and non-financial results. And this, let me emphasize, by concluding that from our viewpoint, this consistency is truly remarkable at a time when we know the attention paid to non-financial results tends to be decreasing, at least on another continent than ours, under, shall we say, various pressures, and we have a few signs of that, indeed, perhaps in a more attenuated way on our own continent. This consistency is clearly very firm in the mission committee, and I thank you for your attention.
Pas seulement une usine, c'est un lieu chargé d'histoire. Plusieurs générations y ont travaillé pour perpétuer ce savoir-faire.
À l'EFI Danone de Bailleul, c'est plus de 100 ans de savoir-faire. Ici, on élabore les recettes de nos produits laitiers frais. Chaque jour, 250 salariés contribuent à faire vivre ce site unique. Ma mission, c'est d'assurer que nous avons les bonnes ressources et les bonnes compétences pour répondre aux besoins de nos consommateurs, avec la sécurité et la qualité au cours de chacune de nos décisions. Bailleul est une usine unique. C'est l'une des premières usines de Danone. C'est un lieu chargé d'histoire où plusieurs générations ont travaillé pour perpétrer ce savoir-faire. Chaque jour, nous produisons 5 millions de pots, soit 150 000 tonnes par an. Danone, Activia, Danette, Danonino, Danacol, autant de produits emblématiques qui sortent de nos lignes de production grâce au savoir-faire des équipes. À Bailleul, Chaque journée commence par un engagement simple, garantir la sécurité pour nos salariés et la meilleure qualité possible pour nos consommateurs. Dès le matin, nous analysons les résultats de la veille pour nous assurer que chaque pot respecte nos standards les plus exigeants. Mon rôle, c'est d'accompagner les équipes pour garantir un niveau d'exigence constant. Chaque geste compte pour assurer la sécurité alimentaire et la fiabilité de nos process. La qualité, ici, repose sur un système robuste, de standards clairs, une vigilance constante et des tests effectués sur chaque lot avant sa mise sur le marché. Bailleul, ce n'est pas seulement une usine, c'est un site profondément ancré dans son territoire. Ce lien avec les partenaires locaux fait partie de notre identité et nous amène à respecter notre environnement et à contribuer au dynamisme de la région. Être directeur de site, c'est un métier exigeant, mais aussi pour moi, c'est l'un des plus beaux qui soit. Je m'appelle Jeremy Wood, je suis directeur de site de Bailleul depuis 1 an et demi. Nous sommes Danone. We are Danone.
On fait un métier absolument extraordinaire.
We're really in a truly remarkable business. Chairman Gilles, ladies and gentlemen, shareholders, dear Danone, I'm very pleased to be with you again for our shareholders meeting. It's a major event annually to review the past travel, share the progress and success of our strategy, and present the outlook that it opens up for Danone and its ecosystem for you as shareholders, as well as its employees, its consumers, its patients, and its partners. We are evolving in an environment that is marked by profound transformations, economic and geopolitical challenges, may the health issues, rapidly changing consumption habits. In this demanding context, the ability of corporations to adapt, to transform themselves and strengthen their resilience is no longer an option. It's a precondition for success. More than ever, we remain true to our mission, bringing health through food with healthy and quality projects, and true to our dual projects, combining economic performance, social responsibility, consolidating our assets, creating lasting value, and preparing the future in a constantly changing world. A company such as ours offers a bearing in terms of its history, of its brands, and also the fact that it's rooted in communities, in people's daily lives. We've been able to build and grow strong brands, experts in their category, recognized for their know-how and forward-looking. Behind Danone yogurt, there's over 100 years of science and research. Behind Evian, we celebrated that 2 weeks ago. Almost 2 centuries of unique expertise in water management and a rare capacity to reinvent ourselves, to address new generations. Behind Nutrition, there's 130 years of engagements at the side of patients with global expertise recognized in specialized and medical nutrition. These are strong foundations that allow us to move forward with confidence. This strength is expressed through our territorial roots. We're there, present where our consumers are, close to our communities and partners, notably farmers. In France, the historic cradle of Danone remains at the heart of our strategy. We're proud of producing locally and of continuing to invest in our industrial plants, serving jobs and the economic and social dynamism of communities. We are a key player of food sovereignty. These local roots, we carry this internationally. Danone is a company with international renown, present where demand is strong, and our skills really make the same difference. The same demanding approach guides our choice. Better serve consumers and patients in their essential needs. It is healthy food at every age of life, hydration, and unfortunately the need is being felt. Medical nutrition, it's around these convictions that is articulated our strategy and action that I'd like to tell you about today. I'm going to first of all review our 2025 performance that demonstrates, as Giselle, the relevance of our positioning, our growth model for the out years, and then I'll go into greater detail regarding the rollout of Chapter 2 of our Renew strategy and explain how we're accelerating the pace to turn Danone into an even more efficient and resilient company. Before starting the heart of my presentation, it seemed to me important to address the developments that marked the beginning of the year in infant formula. It's a priority issue for us all, and above all for the families who count on us daily. I know how much recent events were disruptive and a source of concern for all. That's, of course, the last thing we want to experience when we feed a dear one.
We are taking this situation very seriously, and let me be very clear. Food safety and quality are and have always been, they will remain our top priority at Danone. We are confident in the safety and the quality of our products, which are based on sound scientific principles and rigorous testing. In light of recent events, we reviewed the consumer feedback received during that period, and we did not identify any cause for concern. However, in the context of evolving regulatory requirements, we have worked closely with the various national food safety authorities, and we have taken the necessary steps to comply with their new recommendations. We have recalled from those markets certain batches of infant formula, and our priority has been to support parents and healthcare professionals to provide clear information and help restore trust, as that trust makes all the difference. Let me now turn to the year 2025. Now, before Jürgen goes into more detail about our 2025 financial results, I am pleased to share with you results that are once again robust and of high quality. The numbers that you see on this chart are much more than mere data. They reflect the hard work, the commitment, and the passion of Danoners, whom I would like to thank most sincerely. These achievements are theirs. In 2025, we embarked on Chapter 2 of our Renew strategy, and we grew revenue by more than 4.5% on a like-for-like basis. That is all the more remarkable as it is underpinned by a positive volume mix throughout the year, which contributed more than 2.7% to growth in 2025. We achieved these strong results while continuing to pursue, as Pascal said, our sustainability approach with a focus on responsibility and impact. And Natalie will give you more information on progress made this year under our climate strategy. But allow me to highlight just a few key achievements now. Yet again, and Gilles mentioned this, we were awarded a AAA rating by the CDP. This underscores our leadership when it comes to transparency and strong performance in the areas of climate change, sustainable water management, and forest conservation. We also received B Corp certification at the global level, and this is the culmination of a 10-year process started in 2015, and it attests to our goal of bringing together financial performance with social and environmental impact. The overall 2025 performance that you see here demonstrates the strength and the resilience of our unique health-focused portfolio, which is fully aligned with the major structural trends transforming our sector. As I said, the food sector is at a turning point across the world. Consumers are becoming increasingly aware of the close link between diet and health. As science advances, their expectations are changing, and they are seeking nutritional solutions that are ever more tailored to themselves and to their families. Health through food has never been more relevant than it is today. That is why Danone, your company, is ideally positioned. Our health-focused approach, underpinned by science and high-quality standards, enable us to offer nutritional solutions that are tailored to every stage of life. This is not just what we do. It is, in fact, what constantly guides our strategy and its implementation. And the results speak for themselves. Our categories are growing faster than the food industry average, driven by strong converging trends, all geared towards healthier eating. Protein, fiber, medical nutrition. These are three promising trends in which Danone has a real advantage. Demand for high-quality, nutritionally rich proteins is growing, particularly among consumers using GLP-1 treatment to lose weight, but who also wish to preserve their muscle mass. Fiber is still largely under-consumed, but plays a vital role in metabolic and gut health, whilst optimizing the effectiveness of protein. This is an area where Danone's expertise in probiotics really makes a difference. Finally, medical nutrition is proving its positive impact. It enhances treatment outcomes, speeds up recovery, and reduces hospital stays, thus benefiting both patients and healthcare systems. Our revenue growth in 2025 was driven by our high-growth platforms, in particular high-protein products, gut health, infant milk, and medical nutrition. In North America, Oikos Pro exceeded the €1 billion revenue mark in 2025, confirming the strength and the relevance of this platform. The Danone brand, which also has sales at over €1 billion, posted very strong growth too. Gut health and fiber, as I just said, are also solid growth drivers, particularly Activia, which is back to growth in Europe. Allpro is another key driver of growth in Europe. We have turned Allpro from a simple plant-based alternative into a plant-based nutritional supplement, as reflected in our new packaging. Finally, in infant formula, Aptamil recorded double-digit growth, driven by the change in our core range and the launch of new products to meet specific nutritional needs. We have also expanded our geographical presence in high-potential countries. At our last Capital Markets event in 2024, we outlined our ambition with Chapter 2 of Renew Danone to strengthen our fundamentals while continuing the group's transformation. This is what we have begun to do in 2025. We launched science-based innovations that remain true to our health-focused approach. We also overhauled the way we view our categories to create new opportunities for growth. For example, we launched Allpro Meal to Go, which is a nutritionally balanced plant-based meal replacement designed for active lifestyles, providing 20 grams of protein and 26 essential vitamins and minerals. We are making healthy food simpler and more accessible. We have also continued to expand our presence in strategic channels, creating value across all distribution channels and strengthening the resilience of our model. In 2025, channels outside mass retail grew significantly faster. Out-of-home pharmacies, convenience stores, hospitals, and home-based care all posted double-digit growth. This diversification enables us to address new needs, complementing our long-standing mass retail partners and to reach more consumers and patients in more places and at every stage of life. We also remain strongly focused on execution and competitiveness by strengthening several key capabilities. On the operational front, we have made significant progress in recent years. We are very proud to be ranked 10th in the Gartner Top Supply Chains 2025 ranking, which identifies best practices in supply chain management. This is the best performance among all FMCG players worldwide. We are accelerating our transformation through our Industry 5.0 approach, equipping our teams and our sites with advanced AI capabilities, automating quality systems, predictive maintenance, and real-time performance visualization. Beyond production, we are also strengthening digital execution across the entire value chain. Our planning centers are equipped with AI tools. Our shared service centers are increasingly automated, and we have rolled out new in-store visualization tools. All of this improves accuracy, speed, and the efficiency with which we serve our customers and consumers. But as Gilles said, we remain realistic. We know that there's still work to be done and certain areas in which perhaps we fall short. As Gilles said, in the US, our performance in 2025 did fall short of our expectations. We know we must raise the bar. Succeeding in this market means restoring performance in categories other than proteins and specialized nutritions, so from creamers to non-protein yogurts and plant-based products. We appointed Henri Bruxelles as President of the Americas region and implemented broader organizational changes to create a performance culture based on excellence in implementation and greater operational intensity. To bolster long-term performance and build a lasting competitive advantage, we are strengthening the key capabilities that truly make a difference at Danone. We are convinced that the future of dairy products lies in more resilient and sustainable agricultural supply chains, and that is why we have launched the Danone Milk Academy, a unique multi-year global program bringing together academics, technical partners, and Danone to provide farmers with practical, scientific, and digital know-how. This approach is tailored to regional specificities and different farming models. It aims to strengthen the dairy sector in a sustainable way. The same philosophy underpins Partner for Growth. This is more than a program. It is a catalyst for creating shared value, transforming our supplier relationships into long-term partnerships. Ever since it was launched 2 years ago, the initiative has helped improve efficiency, unlock capacity, and accelerate our own sustainability goals. When it comes to innovation, We continue to invest in cutting-edge research. Recently, we inaugurated the One Biome Laboratory at Paris-Saclay. This is dedicated to the study of intestinal microbiome. We also acquired the Akkermansia company, a Belgian pioneer in the field of probiotics with nearly 20 years of expertise. This further strengthens our scientific differentiation. Finally, we are investing in skills and leadership for our employees, in particular through our global Dan Skills training program, to prepare our teams for the challenges of tomorrow and to continue the cultural transformation we began 4 years ago. As part of Chapter 2 of Renew, we also clearly signaled our intention to be more proactive when it comes to acquisitions. In 2025, we began along this path with a strong focus on strategic fit and rigorous governance. With the acquisition of Kate Farms, we now have a $500 million medical nutrition platform in the United States. This, for the first time, is giving us significant presence within the U.S. healthcare system. And the sector, or rather Kate Farms, has posted strong growth and the integration is going very well. In Australia, we acquired an additional 1% stake in our dairy joint venture managed in partnership with Saputo at the end of February, bringing our stake to 51% and enabling the financial consolidation of the business. We generated over 100 million euros in revenue through this joint venture, which operates in Australia and New Zealand. In Argentina, you would have heard, last month we announced the creation of a joint venture with our long-standing partner, Arcor, giving rise to a major player in the dairy sector in the region. By joining forces on an equal footing, we are creating a robust growth platform to bring healthy, high-quality products to as many Argentine consumers as possible. Finally, last month we announced that we had signed an agreement to acquire Human Fuel, a global leader in balanced meal solutions with a strong presence in the UK, the US, and a presence in the rest of Europe. Over the past 10 years, Huel built a strong brand with leading digital capabilities. By combining Huel's strengths with Danone's global footprint and nutritional expertise, we are paving the way for tremendous opportunities in the new and rapidly growing world of complete nutrition. These decisions demonstrate our commitment to actively shaping our portfolio to support sustainable long-term growth. And this cannot be achieved without taking into account sustainability issues. Balancing the growth of our business with a positive impact on society, that is at the heart of our DNA and our model. But it is also a challenge. Today, our industry faces major challenges: access to healthy food for all, food security and sovereignty, climate adaptation, and social progress. At Danone, we are committed to championing a model that supports our partners, particularly farmers, and offering consumers healthy, sustainable, high-quality food at the best price, while continuing to invest in the future through science, the circular economy, and the sustainability of our products and production methods. That is the essence of our commitments, which are structured in our Danone Impact Journey, the second phase of which we're launching this year, a roadmap which extends to 2030. And we want to go even further in promoting health through nutrition, managing our impact, our use of natural resources, supporting the necessary transformations, and ultimately strengthening the resilience of our business lines and our entire ecosystems in the long term. Before handing over to Nathalie Alquier, Vice chairperson in charge of sustainable development at Danone. Let's watch a video about our approach.
At Danone, what are you doing so we can eat healthy food now? And when I'm grown up too?
Healthy food shapes every choice we make. But it can only last if we care for nature and the people who make it possible. This is why 90,000 Danoners act every day across the entire value chain, proud to be B Corp certified worldwide, proving that business performance and responsibility go hand in hand. Through the Danone Impact journey, we strengthen today the resilience of our business.
Health through food? What does it mean?
We already have the healthiest product portfolio in the industry. We successfully reduced sugars in children's products. And we accelerate our efforts, targeting now the everyday products adults enjoy. We also contribute to the battle against iron deficiency anemia, the world's most widespread nutritional deficiency, screening millions of children.
You said without nature we don't have food, right? What do you do to protect our planet?
We believe the solutions lie in nature. We pioneer regenerative agriculture and are the only food company to align with the Global Methane Pledge, reducing already by 29.8% methane emissions from fresh milk. We champion water stewardship, launching more than 26 watershed preservation initiatives in the past 5 years. We reduce carbon emissions, and we also remain committed to driving the transition to circular packaging and recovering as much as we use, being a partner of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation since 2018.
And what about the people making our food?
Nothing happens without Danoners and the communities we work with. That's why we support life's key moments for all employees across the world, from parenthood and aging to illness, including employees facing cancer. We equip our people with the skills of tomorrow and empower also farmers by launching the Milk Academy. As we enter the second phase of our Danone Impact journey, we build on what we've started, reaffirming our sustainability ambition, all Danoners stepping up efforts for the next 5 years to deliver our mission.
For us and for future generations.
Mesdames, dear shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, the Danone sustainability doesn't take the back seat in our strategy. It has always actually been at the very heart of our long-term value creation model. It feeds into our economic performance, our corporate resilience, and the positive impact that we try to have on our societies and on the planet. You've just seen this with the 3 key dimensions of our Sustainable Development Roadmap. First of all, health through food. Secondly, nature. And finally, working for our employees and communities. We are now moving into the second phase of our Sustainability Roadmap. It's what we have termed the Danone Impact Journey. And I would like to share with you some facts and figures that illustrate what has been achieved and also our renewed commitments for 2030. In 2025, our commitments led to concrete measurable progress in line with our trajectory and that enjoy strong and unique external recognition. And this for all 3 pillars. First of all, the health through food pillar. Everybody recognizes that Danone has the healthiest product portfolio in the industry, and this is why we rank number 1 in the key global index, ATNI. Some 99% of our dairy and plant-based products for children have seen their sugar content cut to less than 10 grams, this in line with the most stringent requirements. For these same product categories, some 9 Danone products out of 10 are recognized as being a healthy choice, and this in international standards. The social companies that we support guaranteed access to drinking water for 25 vulnerable people in 11 countries on a daily basis. The third pillar, nature, there we have cut back our CO2 and methane emissions, and this in a major way since 2020. We are continuing large-scale development of regenerative agriculture with our partner farmers, and we are also ensuring that sensitive raw materials are provided without causing deforestation. And then our third pillar, the social pillar, there too we have met our goals. So we have been awarded the B Corp certification globally after 10 years of tireless endeavors. So this is a world first for a company of our size. B Corp is an independent label of international renown. It recognizes good corporate practice in social, societal and environmental terms. Some 98% of our employees benefit from good health and provident coverage thanks to our Dan Cares program, and half of managerial posts are held by women. This reflects our firm commitment in the matter. This is major progress on all strategic indicators. What it shows is that when we make a commitment, we follow up, we act and we get results, and this has a positive impact for Danone and for its ecosystems. On the back of this advance, we wanted to renew our ambition for each of these three pillars between now and 2030, beginning with health. There, our ambition is to reinforce our positive impact on food and diet at large scale, and to ensure that we really stand out as completely specific and unique in our competitive environment. For instance, we want to cut back on sugar content for daily adult products. We also want to try and prevent iron-caused anemia, which is the #1 nutritional deficiency worldwide, particularly in Africa and Asia. So we have set ourselves a very ambitious target. We want to contribute to 14 million anemia screening tests between now and 2030, and we once again assert our ambition to be the leader in terms of healthy food with the healthiest product portfolio of the industry. Regarding climate commitments, to continue to fight climate change. Our climate objectives are fully in line with scientific data and compatible with the objective of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. They have been approved by the key international organization SBTi. The progress made in 2020 is in line with this objective. We pursue a strong and structural reduction of our CO2 and methane emissions throughout our value chain. In our industrial and energy operations, we have cut back on our CO2 emissions by more than 40%. In farming and raw materials, we are pioneers. We are the first food corporation to have made a commitment regarding methane reduction, and this has brought good results. At the end of 2025, we had already reduced our methane emissions for fresh milk by more than 29%. For transport and logistics, we have also made headway by reducing emissions by 17%. Our resilience depends on the resilience of natural ecosystems, and that's why we focus on three major levers when it comes to protecting nature. First of all, regenerative farming, which aims to restore soils, to protect biodiversity, and to strengthen the economic resilience of our partner farmers. We continue this approach and roll out these practices. Our objective is that 45% of sensitive main ingredients in terms of volume should be sourced directly from holdings that have regenerative farming, and this by 2030. Then we want to protect water resources. We want to have the best practice in terms of management of watersheds and catchment areas. This will benefit our sites, the local communities. We have for 28 years now been a pioneer partner with Ramsar, which is the United Nations Convention for Wetlands. This shows our long-term commitment to good management of this strategic resource. Finally, day-to-day management of packaging. This is key, and there our ambition is to work tirelessly to ensure that all of the packaging is recycled so that we avoid it ending up in the environment. And this is why we have three major priorities: improving our packaging to make sure that it can be easily recycled, cutting back on the amount of virgin plastic used, and recovering all of the packaging that is used by supporting effective recycling systems. Our approach is very clear-cut. We want to protect nature and thus secure resilience and the sustainability and indeed the very future of our business. Sustainability is perhaps first and foremost about humans, about people. We intend to forge ahead with greater social ambition to help our employees and all of the people who work with us throughout our value chains. And this requires structural programs. First of all, Dan Life, which is based on the Dan Care program, but is more ambitious still. The idea is to support our employees at all stages of their life: parenthood, when they become carers, or if they have a serious illness like cancer. Then we have Dan Skills, which is to give the 90,000 people who work with us the skills they need for the future. And finally, the Milk Academy to support and train farmers in regenerative agriculture. These will be our future farmer partners, and they will be more resilient. In addition to that, we have made firm commitments in protecting human rights, in having responsible supply chains and fair wages, so as to ensure that our growth can benefit all, in very concrete terms. By way of conclusion, I would like to go back to some key points. In just a few minutes, I've tried to give you a broad overview of the aims of the second phase of the Danone Impact Journey. Basically, we are restating our deeply held conviction that sustainability is not just a matter of corporate responsibility. It's a strategic issue that is very built into our business model because it strengthens our resilience, it feeds into innovation, and it secures in the long term our supplies. This requires investment, and we plan this investment carefully, thinking of financial factors and real impact. Sometimes we meet hurdles. They may be of a technical nature, regulatory, due to competition or financial, and this means sometimes that we have to change the pace of transformation, but we always have the long-term vision, which goes hand in hand with pragmatic choices, and this is the hallmark of Danone, and this means that sustainability strengthens the confidence our customers have in us, our clients and our partners, and we hope also your confidence in us, dear shareholders. I will now hand over to Jürgen Esser, who will be presenting the financial results for 2020. Thank you very much, Nathalie. Ladies and gentlemen, dear shareholders, good afternoon. I'm delighted to be speaking here at this annual general meeting, and I will be presenting to you the financials for 2025 and also confirming our medium-term ambitions. As Antoine has said, we have now opened Chapter 2 of Renew Danone with solid results, completely in line with the medium-term objectives set in 2024, which shows that our business model is indeed the right one. 2025 saw a strong growth in revenue by 4.5% like-for-like, but it was quality growth, and it was based on the volume mix. The revenue amounted to 27.3 billion euros. We give priority to growth that is driven by the volume mix, and this helps to improve the gross margin. And this is why the current operating margin has been improved by 44% base points and is now at 13.4%. We've also reinvested in our brands, in research and innovation and key skills so as to fuel future growth. Good operating performance together with the financial stringency means that we have current earnings per share of up 4.6% and free cash flow is at 2.8 billion euros. If we look more closely at revenue for 2025, we can see that growth quarter by quarter was driven by the volume mix. As we move into phase 2 of Renew Danone, we have a diversified portfolio, which means that quarter by quarter we deliver sustainable growth across all of our business, as you will see, I think, on the next slide, and there it is. In 2025, we achieved high quality growth across all of our product categories and all of our geographies. I'd like to make a few comments about the key regions. In Europe, revenue advanced by 2.3% like-for-like. The zone of Europe continued with sustained momentum. We have seen 9 quarters in a row of positive volume mix at the end of the fourth quarter. This good performance reflects the progress that has been made for dairy products. We have functional products such as high protein range, skyr and kefir, and the Alpro brand has also seen strong growth in plant-based products. Specialized nutrition has been bolstered by the very good performance of adult medical nutrition, and waters also see robust growth thanks in particular to the Volvic and Evian brands. In North America, revenue was up 2% like-for-like. There was more moderate growth in 2025. For the EDP product category, there were some hitches. High protein products continued strong with double-digit growth, but coffee creamers were beset by temporary delivery problems. Specialized nutrition recorded robust growth, and the recent acquisition of Kate Farms, not yet included in our comparable data, has very strong growth. Finally, in China, North Asia and Oceania, revenue increased by 11.7%. Specialized nutrition in this area recorded outstanding growth in 2025, thanks to competitive growth that was very strong for infant milk formula, and also we continue to see very strong demand for medical nutrition products. Waters, the Mizone brand, did very well. The EDP product category in this area recorded double-digit growth, thanks in particular to Activia as a brand and Oikos in Japan. These are just a few examples which show that our growth was very high quality in 2025, and we're very pleased to note that we are able to meet our commitments regarding value creation across all of the main financial indicators. We have generated a lot of free cash flow. I have already mentioned this. And this means that once again this year we have reduced our net debt level, which is now 8.4 billion euros as of end 2025. And finally, thanks to the improvement of operating performance, we are pleased to note that our ROIC is 10.7%. This is now a double-digit structural level, and it's a key pillar of our value creation roadmap. Finally, I'm very proud to put to you the payout of a 2.25 euro dividend per share. This is some 5% increase compared to last year, in line with the current earnings per share. But above all, it is a record level in the whole history of our company, dear shareholders. With this message, we would like to close the review of the 2025 financial year results, and I would now briefly like to present to you our first quarter 2026 revenue figures that were published yesterday. And moving on, looking at these slides, as you know, since the 1st of January 2026, Danone has been reorganized with 3 new geographic zones. We've got Europe, Middle East and Africa, and then the Americas and Asia Pacific. This means that our reporting structures have been changed, and we present our main financial indicators along those lines. The overall environment is somewhat fraught, and yet the figures are good over the first quarter, with a growth of plus 2.7% in like-for-like, thanks to volume mix of plus 1.5%. It's positive for all product categories. Revenue in EMEA increased by 0.6%, like-for-like. Should be noted the context was difficult, with infant milk products having to be recalled and the conflict in the Middle East. In the Americas, revenue increased 3.4% like-for-like, thanks to continued good performance in Latin America, and we're seeing a picking up of momentum in the United States. And in Asia Pacific, revenue recorded a 6% growth level, like-for-like. This is very good, thanks to a large extent to specialized nutrition in China and the EDP category in Japan. I would now like to conclude my presentation by reminding you that our long-term value creation model remains unchanged. We presented this at the last investor seminar, and it is rooted in high-quality growth and attractive yield. As you know, we are planning for 2025-28 revenue growth of between +3% and +5%, and also growth of the current operating income that should outstrip the growth of revenue. This objective means that we should be able to structurally enhance the generation of free cash flow, aiming at 3 billion euros, and thus continue to have double-digit ROIC. The results for the first quarter of 2026 shows that we're on the right track, and we're confident about the remainder of the year. Yesterday, we were able to confirm our annual objectives. They are fully in line with our medium-term ambition. And now I will give the floor back to Antoine. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Jürgen, and thank you, Natalie, for these presentations. As you can see, our results are solid, and we are now fully embarked on the execution of Chapter 2 of our Renew strategy. We continue to act with both responsibility and ambition to transform our food systems to the benefit of consumers and patients whom we serve, but also communities and ecosystems in which we operate. Danone is today a stronger company that has restored solid fundamentals and is projecting itself into the future. We continue to invest in our daily brand, Activia, Danone, Actimel, Levian, Alpro, or Bledina, to cite but a few that have contributed to Danone's success, who daily support the lives of millions of consumers. In France, we innovate and we prepare tomorrow's food thanks to world-class research at Saclay. Players of food sovereignty, we invest in our industrial facilities, and we work with our partners, our farmers, to build strong and sustainable farming value chains. Over 40,000 tons of production are being relocated to Bailleul in France. These are industrial investments, but are above all choices of confidence in our communities, like the Tour de France that we're proud to support. They epitomize and embody a company that is rooted, popular, but also forward-looking, and this momentum is also present internationally. In the United States, we're strengthening our capabilities to meet the strong demand for hyper-proteined yogurts. In Asia, notably in China and Indonesia, we continue our expansion in medical nutrition, serving the health needs based on 100 years of expertise in science, health and nutrition, building on our roots in the communities and our international renown. We're well positioned today to address new expectations, and we do this, I hope you've seen this, with discipline, ambition and the commitment of our 90,000 donors to offer products that have flavor and that meet the highest standards of quality and safety. Our priority is clear: deliver steady performance by continuing the transformation of the group. We have charted a clear course driven by innovation, acquisitions and a clear focus on segments that are high growth or with high value added, where the science and the health benefits make the difference. We remain committed to delivering quality results thanks to rigorous execution, correct what needs to be corrected, amplify what works, and to maintain a constructive, demanding mindset in an increasingly complex environment in spite of an uncertain external context, particularly volatile. Our approach remains unchanged for 2026, discipline and focus on execution, all that in line with our medium-term ambition. Thank you for your trust and confidence, your engagement at our side to continue to make Danone grow month after month, year after year. Thank you.
Merci Antoine.
Thank you, Antoine. I suggest we now give the floor to Shure Messas, Forvis Mazar, our statutory auditors, so as to hear their report on 2025.
Monsieur le Président.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen shareholders, good afternoon. On behalf of the Board of Statutory Auditors, Ernst & Young and Forvis Mazar, I'm pleased to present to you the conclusions of our work on the financial statements of the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2025. As is the case with current practice of this meeting, I propose to summarize the key points of the various reports we've issued, both in respect of the ordinary shareholders meeting and the extraordinary general meeting. All these reports were made available to you by the company. Let me begin first of all with our reports on the annual and consolidated financial statement. These reports that are subject of approvals of the first and second resolutions of our AGM is to be found on pages 155 to 158 and 126 to 129 of the Universal Registration Document. Now, the purpose of our assignment is to ensure that the financial statements are true and fair. And to do this, we conduct procedures in the major entities of the group, both in France and abroad, on an approach that is tailored to the organization of Danone, to its activities and to our assessment of the risks. In respect of 2025, we presented the conclusions of our work to the Audit Committee of Company on 17th of February 2026, as well as to the Board on the 18th of February 2026. For the consolidated financial statements, we consider three issues as being key audit matters. The first pertaining to assessing revenue, in particular the assessment of discounts offered to customers. A point of attention given the multiplicity of contractual relations and the significant nature thereof and the complexity of their estimate at closing. The second point concerns estimates on goodwill impairment tests and brands of indefinite life, which rest on the estimate and exercise of judgment by management. Lastly, final point concerns assessing tax liabilities as well as provisions for tax risks based on the judgment needed to assess the outgoing of probable resource. On the annual financial statements, our report incorporates a mandatory technical observation pertaining to the first application of the new regulation ANC 2206. A report states that we considered the valuation of equity interest as being a key audit matter. Our report furthermore report on specific verifications provided by law aimed at ensuring the sincerity of certain information set out in the management report and documents sent to shareholders. Furthermore, we ensured the verification of the presentation of the consolidated financial statements with the ESEF European Electronic Information Format. For all these verifications, we have no observation to make, and in summary, in respect to the first and second resolutions, we certify without reservation the accounts of Danone as presented to you. Still, in respect of the ordinary shareholders meeting, we also issued a report on a regulated party agreement that set out the terms and conditions of said agreements that we have been informed on. Our report is to be found on pages 458, 459 of the Universal Registration document. We inform you that we have not been informed of any agreement authorized and implemented during the course of the past year to be submitted to the AGM. Our report recalls the conventions and agreements whose executions continue in 2025 but previously approved by your meeting. Lastly, in respect of the extraordinary general meeting, we've issued two reports covering the 15th and 16th resolution. Resolution 15 pertains to the issuance of ordinary shares and securities for members of a corporate savings plan. Resolution 16 concerns the issuance of ordinary shares and securities giving access to the share capital with removal of the preferential subscription right. These reports prompt no comments or particular observations or operations that fall within the framework of legal provisions. In closing, I'd like to move to the presentation of certification of sustainability information. On behalf of Fabrice Mazar, I'm pleased to present the conclusions. Our report is to be found on page 297 to 300 of the Universal Registration document. Our assignment is to express limited assurance on the state of sustainability of Danone and covers four areas. The first focus area is compliance of the analysis of process of dual materiality implemented by your company to determine the information to be published and also to respect the consultation obligation of the Social and Economic Committee. Second focus area, compliance of information published with European sustainability standards and to comply with publication requirements of information as provided for the regulation on taxonomy. For these three areas, we present in our report the nature of the audits that we conducted, the conclusions drawn therefrom, and in support of the conclusions, the components that gave rise to particular attention on our part. In this respect, the information published in respect of the dual materiality analysis mentioned in section 4.2, and that referring to climate change mentioned in 4.3.1 of the sustainability report, with a subject of particular attention on our part. In summary, we have noted no errors, omissions, or inconsistencies regarding the three areas previously described that we certify without reservation. Chairman, ladies, gentlemen, shareholders, I thank you for your kind attention.
Merci.
Thank you to our statutory auditor. We're now going to open the Q&A session. Before starting, let me inform you that we have received, prior to this meeting, 12 written questions coming from one single shareholder. The answer to these questions are already available on our website, and you can, of course, consult them if you so wish. So we're now going to open the Q&A session. You've been able to draft your questions in writing on cards made available to you. We're going to answer your questions alternating between questions live and questions submitted in writing. Let's start with questions from the hall. Let's start over there with panel number 7. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Chairman, if I follow the figures you present, I'm a bit lost because you're talking about a net income, the earnings per share going from 363 to 380 earning. That's an increase of about 5%. But when I go into the consolidated financial statements of net income, group interest per share goes from 314 to 282. That's a drop of 10%. So I explored a bit further. Are they constant current fact? I mean, it generates a bit of confusion. I hope the dividends you're going to be paying us are not in constant francs, but in current francs. I mean, there's a difference of 15%. So why present the figures like that? It's not very serious, is it? Thank you for your question. Well, first of all, you're right. We shared with you the current EPS of €3.80, which is indeed up for 86%. That's a very good result. It's true that it doesn't include exceptional effects. There are areas where there are exceptional effects. In 2024, come back to in 24, we had exceptional profits. We sold companies. It created gains, but which just focus on a particularly in 2025 we had exceptional one-off costs that were linked to two projects. There was a transformation project in Europe and in Asia of a depreciation of a brand, Silk, in the US. That was an impairment. I mean, those are exceptional results which in most cases are non-cash. And so we exclude that from the earnings per share. Now there's a direct link between the EPS and the dividend that we're proposing today. 50 is 59% of current EPS, and that's been stable flat for years. So we're going to take a second question from the hall, from panel number 12 over there. There's no one for 12 panel? Sorry, because I see. Okay, let's move to 9, please. No questions either. Okay, well, there's actually no question. Okay, what we'll do is take written questions. First question, does Danone plan to expand into cheeses? Antoine, perhaps. Well, Danone doesn't really plan to expand into cheese. We've got a very small cheese business in countries such as Morocco, where we have a business and a presence with something that is about small fresh cheese and a triangle sold at a very affordable price. That's to be found everywhere in Morocco, but we don't plan to expand into the cheese segment. Danone's strategy, which is rooted in the legacy, the history of the group that was born in 1919 in Barcelona in the yogurt, but in yogurt that has been liberated by science. Our strategy is health through food that is underpinned by science. That's something we do extraordinarily well with yogurt. It's something far more difficult to achieve with cheese. So we remain on our core business of cheese, proteins, and many other things, but cheese isn't part of our core business.
Merci Antoine.
Thank you, Antoine. Perhaps a second written question for your attention, but a question on artificial intelligence. Oh yes, there was a question on what's the impact of AI on us, how's the group using AI, and what impact in terms of human relations. Now, we've been working on this for a very long time now, and we've been working on it for a very long time at very different levels, of course, on the use of AI, and here we're fundamentally doing two things. One, to equip all the Danoners with knowledge of AI by giving them access not just to tools, but to education training on AI, so as to create familiarity with the tool, with the enabler, the way it works, and we do that very much across the board. And we're beginning to use AI very intentionally where we believe it can make a disproportionate difference. So we use AI for industrial planning to go 40 times faster and achieve better results. We use it in certain fields of R&D where it opens up universes that are truly fascinating. We use it in certain areas of finance to consolidate things and to arrive at faster, more impactful reasons on verticals. We use it, of course, in marketing on verticals where we think it can bring value. We use it in our plants. We've created an academy in Poland for the production supervisors to use AI in our plants. So we got extraordinary results.
And this is at the heart of what Nathalie was explaining. We want the entire company to be constantly reskilling and to be thinking far more long-term in order to manage the age pyramid and the knowledge pyramid. We know that in the West we have aging societies. And so there will be younger Danoners, new Danoners in the years to come. And jobs are changing as well. And so trying to find that fit between people and jobs and creating a learning society, that is something we're trying to do with our social partners, because it requires engagement on the part of people who are being affected, but this can only be done in partnership with our social partners. And I think that we have had a pioneering approach at Danone, and we're learning new things every day because things are changing so quickly. But certainly it's a field for which we have a particular passion, because after all, it's the future of society. Thank you very much, Antoine. We had two questions more for Jürgen about dividends. A question on the payment of dividends in shares, and another one about the split between directors' remunerations and investment. So the first question was, why not offer dividend payments in shares? Well, first of all, we're very pleased to be offering a dividend payout of 2.25 euros, which is a record number for our company. And it is paid in cash. It will be paid in 2 weeks, and it's paid out in cash because we have such strong levels of free cash flow. In 2025, 2.8 billion euros of free cash flow, and our net debt is at its lowest since 2016. So the company is doing really well in terms of its balance sheet and cash flow, and that is why we are able to offer this cash dividend, which leaves you with the choice. And of course, we would be very happy if you decided to reinvest that cash, that dividend, in Danone shares. To answer the second question, the question that Laurent shared, which is, what is our strategy when it comes to allocating capital between dividends and reinvesting in Danone? As you saw in 2025 and in previous years, we reinvested in the company, on the brands, on our plants, and our various commercial initiatives. But we also made acquisitions, as you saw with Huel or Kate Farms in 2025. And thanks to these strong results and our cash flow position, we are able to allocate capital across all dimensions. So lower the net debt, invest in the future, and pay out attractive dividends. Perhaps we could give the floor to Gilles as well, who may also be able to respond, as indeed this is a part of the responsibility of the board of directors. Did you have anything to add on this allocation of capital? Well, I think that a company like Danone, like all listed companies, are very attentive to payout. That is the share that is paid out as dividends and what remains in the company. So to try not to have a level of dividends that actually weighs too heavily on the balance sheet and which has an impact on investment, whether it's organic or external. And I think that we have found the right balance, and we believe to continue along these lines, or we intend to continue along these lines. We have a question on whether we might create an advisory committee of individual shareholders. The answer is that at this stage we have not quite taken a decision. I know that some companies, Air Liquide, have done that, but they have quite a large number of shareholders. We meet with the investor relations team regularly. We have a letter sent out twice a year. A lot of information is available. The universal registration document, more than 500 pages, so plenty of information is available, and there's no decision on this particular front. Thank you. Number 10, please. Panel number 10. Yes. Our company consumes a lot of plastic. Part of it is recyclable, part of it is recycled. For bottles, we know what happens, but for the yogurt containers, that plastic is waste. And we know that a great deal of oil and therefore plastic comes from the Middle East. And so how sensitive are we to the present crisis if it were to continue? Well, Indeed, we use plastic, not much if we look at it at a global scale, and we have considerably reduced our consumption of virgin plastic, 17% in the last few years. The first thing we did in a highly disciplined way, and Natalie mentioned this as well, is we sought to ensure that all our packaging would be designed to be recyclable. And we are pioneers on that front. More than 85% of all our packaging is designed for recycling. Nearly half of our water volumes are in reusable and in fact reused packaging. So we try to make sure that we design for recyclability. The second point is that we try to encourage recycling. Some systems work really well. In Norway, for example, recycling rates are nearly 100%. I think they're 97 or 98%. It's highly effective. And they collect all the containers. They have return deposit systems. A similar system is being set up in Poland and in other parts of Europe, and we believe very strongly in the return deposit system, because if the packaging has value, then it will be reintegrated into the value chain, and that is a circular approach. We are among a few companies that are highly committed to this, with Ellen MacArthur and circularity. We constantly innovate on packaging as well. We reduce the amount of material used. We try to make our packaging lighter, and we also use radically different types of packaging. Of course, we want to achieve the same level of quality for the consumer, the same level of safety, food safety, and affordability, because that is also important to us. But we are indeed pioneering on that front. And to answer your question about the Middle East, flexible packaging is more exposed to this risk than we are. But certainly this is something we're following with a great deal of attention. Thank you. Yes, number 11. Good afternoon. I wanted to talk about water. We know competitors faced challenges, water contamination, forever chemicals. At the same time, water reserves are dwindling. The water table has been depleted. Glaciers are melting. There's less snow. So are you feeling a lack of water? Do you have to dig deeper for water? Is demand increasing? And are you able to meet it? I'll answer that question along with one written question that we received on water from an economic and an ecological standpoint. Now, first of all, water as a resource is a priority for us. Protecting it, protecting catchment areas, in order to ensure that we protect the land on which rainwater falls. This is what we've done in Evian and the local areas where we have worked as well on wetlands, methanizers to avoid water contamination. In Evian, when it falls on the plateau, it comes down the other side 15 years down the road. So we're doing it here. We're also doing it in Indonesia in partnership with local communities, local authorities, but also Ramsar, the UN Convention on Wetlands, with whom we have been partnering for a long time to preserve water. Second, there are very strict water conservation quotas. The sources that we use are very deep, highly regulated, and with the local authorities, we're very clear on how much we can actually take, and we are below that ceiling, far below it. We also adapt based on the local circumstances. So, for example, we sometimes take less water and do not meet demand because we cannot afford to have that source become too depleted. So this is to answer the written question. We have a very simple water strategy. In countries where water is not drinkable, so producing high quality mineral drinking water in Mexico, Indonesia, for example. These are premium waters of a very high quality in France and in developed countries. So in France, Evian is like the champagne of water. Its benefits have been recognized for 200 years. Evian is a symbol of France, much like champagne. It is drunk in New York and Tokyo and Alula and all over the world. So our strategy is focusing, first of all, on access to water in countries where there's no drinking water, and second, premium drinking waters in developed countries. So it is a huge focus for us. And what I do today in Evian will have an impact 15 years down the road. So we have a very long-term approach as well. Thank you. Speaking of Evian, there's another question about Evian and about the tourist complex in Evian. Why does Danone keep that complex, given that it's probably not very profitable? I'll answer that question because I'm chairman of the Evian Resort Company. Now, these results do not have much impact on the bottom line because it's quite a small company, the resort. But you must understand that this segment is a legacy that we're very proud of, because up until 1960, much of the revenue came from the tourism segment and not from the water segment. That changed with mass retail, logistics, and so on, of course. Third, to understand what we do on the water segment and the specificity of Danone is that as a mineral water provider, we need to be rooted in local communities. And so we believe that being present there and managing the hotels, the casino, the golf course in Evian, that strengthens our roots in the community. And actually, they have asked that we continue to operate the resort. Yes, and I would add that actually it shines a light on your company when the G7 meeting takes place at Danone. That has a positive impact on the company. For example, when the Berlin Philharmonic comes to play in a concert hall built for Rostropovich, that also has positive repercussions. A golf tournament that presents the same award to a man as it does to a woman, that too has positive repercussions. We also host a French-German meeting there, and all of that really puts Danone in a very positive light. We also have the Tour de France coming to Evian soon. But it's also a family business, and a business is also a journey that people go on, and in order for that journey to occur, you need different stops and places along the way. And it is there that we actually train our management team every year. It is like a training center for Danone, and we don't go there on holiday. It's hard work that is done when our management team participates in these trainings. Now we have a question about risk analysis. And perhaps Antoine and Gilles would like to answer the question on the way that we manage risk.
Well, the risk analysis is explained in great detail in the annual report. It's the formal part of the risk analysis under the authority of the board. Gilles will probably mention that. But the question that we've been asked was risk versus opportunity. So just briefly perhaps, I could explain something that both Jürgen and myself have already mentioned. The world has become a much more volatile place, it's a more complicated place, and everything is changing very fast. Since COVID, there have been a whole succession of crises, epidemiological crises and wars, more in number than the previous 30 years. So a volatile world has a lot at stake in terms of technology, geopolitical issues, and major challenges. And obviously all of that spells risk. We try and divide this risk up into different categories and consider those risks. When you're a company like ours that has a very clear mission statement, that has gathered in strength and power, we're in a better position. And this is what we're trying to do with your company. There are challenges. We need to adapt. We need to be agile, but there are also numerous opportunities. We can outstrip competitors. We can buy up other companies that are not doing as well as ours. And we can also be island of stability for shareholders and for our employees in a world that is very volatile. I think Antoine has said it all. I don't want to be redundant, but the way in which we manage risks is to map them, and we do this in a very pragmatic approach. And we have one person who's in charge of each risk and follows through that management of that risk. It's a very transparent process as well. The risk assessment is done in as an objective manner as possible. The raw risk, if you will, and then we take into account the various factors that might impact that, and then we have the residual risk. And it's also very agile as a process. If you look at the universal registration document, you will see that risks change. The world is changing very fast, and it's hard to predict what's going to happen. A lot of the risks in our risk map currently weren't there 2 or 3 years ago. It's a system that has really worked out very well. We are able to identify risks that might have an impact, and a risk that you control is actually an opportunity. We have a question from the room, number 10. Hello. Thank you. I'd like to thank all of the employees who work for Danone, who are very committed and hard-working. I've got a question. It's a kind of pain point. Danone in China. In your presentation, there's strong growth there for the company. That's great. It means that Chinese consumers like the quality of our brand's products. However, there have been health issues for Danone and for other companies as well. And one supplier has encountered legal issues, a Chinese supplier who seems to be blamed for the health risks. So China in the past has had many health problems, and given all of that, I find it hard to understand that you rely on Chinese suppliers for infant milk formulas. Given that background, I mean, we've got research and development, we've got the bio plant, and health is taken very seriously there. I'm sure that we can find safe suppliers elsewhere. We don't have to go to China for them. Well, 2 points regarding the facts. It was one of our suppliers that was accused, and the supplier we bought from was actually in the Netherlands, and then the supplier sourced elsewhere, but the source originally was the Netherlands. Obviously, we stepped up our monitoring and inspection, and we continue to do so. Our number one priority is quality and safety, and we don't make any shortcuts regarding that. Thank you, Antoine. And we have a written question here. How do you care for your Danoners in terms of mental health? It's a complex issue, obviously, but the answer is fairly straightforward. We've got a number of concrete initiatives, and in 2023 we set up the Be Well program, which has a lot of projects relating to mental health. We try to work on the work-life balance, for instance, and also how to prevent stress. We also have psychologists who step in when times of crisis, if there are major problems. So mental health is of concern to us and is taken on board. And there's a second part to the question as well, which was, you are a mission-led company, you say. Is this not a form of social washing or greenwashing? That's the second part of the question. I trust that Nathalie Alquier's intervention and the statement made by Pascal Lamy have convinced you that that is far from the case. Hello, thank you for taking time to answer questions. You want to have 3 billion euros of free cash flow and an ROIC in double digits. So what is your discipline regarding capital allocation? Why is it that you've increased the dividends in that case? Is it to help or be nice to the shareholders? You're right. Number one, our dividend-related policy is related to actual earnings per share and the dividend payout, so we've tried to keep those more or less in line. Every day we look very closely at capital allocation. It's something we take very seriously, because what we want to do is to generate profit and get good results, and that's why we're constantly readjusting capital allocation and thinking about investing in organic growth, in outside growth, reducing net debt. These are trade-offs, or paying out higher dividends, and we're fortunate enough to be in a situation that we can combine all of that at once, thanks to the strong cash flow of 2.8 billion euros at the moment. I'd like to remind you that 4 years ago it was only 2 billion. So we're doing well. We're in a strong position. Thank you. And a final question, perhaps, regarding the situation in the beef sector, which is worrying. And We were asked also whether what we call local milk actually travels over long distances. Natalie has explained this very carefully, I think. We are very much involved in farming and in supporting farmers, and particularly dairy farmers. Because if there are no farmers in 5 years' time, if they don't have access to good pasture land, if there's not good water for their cows, if nobody takes over the farm holdings, there won't be any milk and there won't be any Danone products anymore. So it's a strategic issue for us, and we've been working on this for many, many years now in a number of ways, in enhancing visibility for farmers and guaranteeing a long-term contract with them with good prices. We've increased our milk collection in France. We also help young farmers who are setting up their business by giving them low-interest loans, because dairy farming requires a lot of capital. We also help in providing people to replace them when they need to leave the holding, and we're also helping them to get more involved in a regenerative style of farming, with cows on pasture land in a field, and the idea of a rotation of the pasture land, which is regenerative. We work on this constantly, and we're doing this in France. You asked about local milk. Local means 60 to 70 kilometers from the factories. We are really local, but we also do this in other countries like Morocco or Senegal. We have a long-term partnership approach with the farmers, so that they have future prospects, that they have a future, so that they can enhance their farming practice to reduce the methane and carbon emissions, but also to generate more profits. Thank you very much, Antoine. I think this brings us to the end of the questions. I note a shareholder's concern about everything going online and becoming electronic regarding the invitation to the general meeting. It's an option, it's not compulsory, and many companies have offered this as an alternative, but if you don't choose that, you will still get everything in hard copy. Let us move on then to the voting. I'd like to thank the hostesses and the host for their support. Let me give you the final quorum. We've been given a figure by the centralized bank. Present and represented shareholders, or those who voted by correspondence or internet, hold together 467,826,567 shares. That's a percentage of 73.8% of shares with voting rights. That's an absolute record here in Danone. We're well ahead of the legal quorum, and this means that decisions taken by the annual general meeting are valid decisions. I think that you're all used to the way we work, but let me explain about the voting devices that you now have available to you. They indicate the number of votes you have, and you can vote on each of the resolutions. You can vote for, you can vote against, or you can abstain. The green vote means for, the red means against, and the yellow vote, or if you don't vote at all, means you've abstained. For each resolution, there will be a summary posted on the screen. You do have the full text of each resolution in the document that you could consult on the internet site, but you did get the list that was available as you came into the room. When I say you can vote now, you'll have 10 seconds to vote, to press the right button, and when you vote, you can see your choice on the device. You can't change it. The results will be posted just a few seconds after each of the votes, and all of this is subject to the supervision of our notary, Mr. Niele. I will now read out the resolutions. In abbreviated form. So, the first resolution is the approval of the company accounts for the financial year ending 31st December 2025. Vote now.
Le vote est clos. Et donc,
no more voting. 99.98% in favor. Thank you. Resolution number 2, approval of the consolidated financial statements for the same financial year. Vote now. No more voting. 99.99% in favor. It's adopted. The third resolution is the allocation of the profit for the financial year 2025 and the setting of the dividend at 2.25 euros per share. The dividend will be paid out fully in cash and detached from the share as of the 4th of May and will be made available for payment as of the 6th of May. You can vote now. No more voting. 99.91% in favour. We now come to the fourth resolution, which is the renewal of Gilles Schnepp's term of office as Director, pursuant to Article 15.2, Paragraph 2 of the Articles of Association. You can vote now. Voting ended. In favour, 98.99%. Congratulations to Gilles. This brings us to the fifth resolution, renewal of Valérie Chapoulot-Floquet's term of office as Director. She is here with us in the room today. Vote now. Voting ended. Result is 99.16%. Congratulations to Valérie. And then we have the third resolution relating to the term of office of the Director. That is the renewal of Sanjeev Mehta's term of office. Vote now. And this is Resolution 6. Voting ended. 99.08%. Congratulations to Sanjeev. He is also in the room with us today. And then we have the seventh resolution, approval of the information relating to the remuneration of corporate officers referred to in paragraph 1 of Article L. 2210(9) of the French Commercial Code for the financial year 2025. Vote now. Thank you. Voting's ended. In favour, 93.19%. Eighth resolution. Approval of the components of the remuneration paid during or awarded in respect of the financial year ending 31st of December 2025 to Antoine de Saint-Affrique, Chief Executive Officer of the company. Vote now. Ended. In favour, 89.73%. Ninth resolution. Approval of the components of the remuneration paid during or awarded in respect to the financial year ending 31st December 2025 to Gilles Schnepp, Chairman of the Board of Directors. Vote now. Voting ended. In favour, 99.85%. 10th resolution, approval of the remuneration policy for executive directors for the financial year 2026, the current year. Vote now. Thank you for your votes. Voting has now ended. In favour, 91.26%. Resolution 11, still relating to remuneration. This is the remuneration policy for the Chairman of the Board of Directors for the 2026 financial year. Vote now. Voting ended. 99.8% in favour. Resolution 12, approval of the remuneration policy for directors for the financial year 2026. Vote now. Voting ended. In favour, 99.66%. Resolution 13, authorization to be granted to the Board of Directors to purchase, hold or transfer shares in the company. Vote now. Voting ended. In favour, 97.51%. And this brings us to Resolution 14, ratification of the transfer of the registered office, which has moved from the 9th District to elsewhere in the 9th District. Vote now. Voting closed. We have in favour 99.99%. That's almost unanimous. And then the 15th resolution is delegation of authority to the Board of Directors to issue ordinary shares and securities reserved for employees participating in the company's saving plan and or to carry out reserved share placements without shareholders' preemptive subscription rights. Vote.
No more voting. In favour, 97.78%. Resolution 16, also a delegation of authority to the board to issue ordinary shares and securities giving access to the share capital with the removal of preemptive subscription rights reserved for categories of beneficiaries comprising employees working within foreign companies of Danone or in situations of international mobility as part of employee share ownership schemes. The vote is open. Non voting resolution approved 97.77%. 17th powers of attorney for formalities. Vote is open. No more voting. In favour, 99.99%. That's the last resolution before handing the floor back to Gilles Schnepp for the conclusion. Don't forget to hand in your voting devices as you leave, and you'll receive a gift in exchange. Well, the votes are now completed. All the resolutions tabled by your board are accepted. On behalf of the board and the Danone teams, I'd like to thank you once again for your attendance and your trust and confidence. Look forward to seeing you next year, April 29, 2017 at Maison Blachine for a new AGM. There'll be no further business. The meeting is adjourned.